Lesson, we're going to look at the SIAM ecosystem. An ecosystem in this context is a business term and means a system or network of interconnecting and interacting parts. The SIAM ecosystem has three layers, which we'll study now: customer organization, including any retained capabilities; service integrator; service providers. The diagram you can see here shows the SIAM ecosystem layers in a high-level model and how they relate to the functions, practices, processes, and structural elements we studied earlier in the course. We're going to focus on the three layers in this lesson. Each customer organization will develop and implement its own SIAM model that is based on this high-level model. Let's start by looking at the role of the customer organization. The customer organization is defined as the end client that is making the transition to SIAM as part of its operating model. It commissions the SIAM ecosystem. Customer organizations typically contain business units such as human resources, finance, sales, and their own internal IT function. They also have their own customers who use their products and services. If a customer didn't adopt a model that included a service integrator, it would need to manage each service provider itself. The customer owns the contractual relationships with external organizations in its SIAM model. The customer might be referred to as the service consumer. The customer organization will include some retained capabilities. Retained capabilities refers to a group of functions that includes any areas the customer organizations see as business differentiating or strategic. Retained capabilities also includes any areas that the customer is unable to source externally for either regulatory or legislative reasons. For example, in some countries, the customer organization may not be permitted to outsource accountability for compliance with legal requirements. You can see some examples of retained capabilities here. The service integrator is never a retained capability, even if the customer is acting as the service integrator. You may see retained capabilities referred to as the intelligent client function. The next layer is the service integrator, the part of the ecosystem that makes SIAM unique. This layer is defined as being accountable for end-to-end service governance, management, integration, assurance, and coordination. The introduction of the service integrator allows the customer organization to have the benefits of multiple service providers while dealing with a single point of contact. The service integrator supports the service providers by representing them to the customer when required. The service integrator acts as the customer's agent. It is responsible for operational governance of all the service providers, whether they are internal or external. Depending on the size and complexity of the services and scope, a service integrator may be one team or multiple teams. Service integrator capabilities can be provided by the customer, an external organization, or a mixture of both. We'll study these SIAM structures in the next lesson. No matter what way the service integrator is sourced, it should be viewed and managed as a single logical service integrator. The third layer in the SIAM ecosystem is the service provider layer. There is little to no benefit in applying SIAM to an environment with only one service provider. Each SIAM model will contain multiple service providers who deliver services and service elements to the customer. Each service provider contributes to the end-to-end service and associated value that the customer receives. Service providers may also be referred to as towers. You can see some examples of the types of services provided by service providers in a SIAM model here. SIAM can be applied to any type of service, whether it is an IT service or a business service. SIAM has, however, been most frequently applied to IT services to date, and so you will find that many examples and case studies refer to IT. Customer organizations might keep some IT services internally within the organization. If this is the case, internal IT needs to be treated as another service provider. The service integrator will spend time working with service providers individually and as a group. It needs to be able to prioritize service providers and identify which provide critical services or need more management time. To support this, service providers can be categorized as strategic, tactical, or commodity providers. The impact of poor service from a strategic service provider is much higher than the impact of poor service from a commodity service provider. The service integrator is therefore likely to spend more time working with the strategic providers. Let's think about the role of the service integrator with an exercise. Plan to spend 20 minutes on this exercise and don't forget to check out our suggested solution. Now that you know a little bit more about the role of the service integrator, start to think about some of its day-to-day responsibilities. What will the service integrator staff do? Try and think of at least 10 activities. For example, what meetings might they attend? The diagram you can see here shows the SIAM layers and the different focus of each layer. Adopting a model based on SIAM can mean adopting a new way of thinking. The customer must understand that it needs to work with a service integrator, not directly with service providers. The service providers need to collaborate and work with the service integrator to deliver an improved service. Click on the Next button to access your end-of-lesson quiz when you're ready. When you finish the quiz, click the Next button again to move on. You've completed Lesson 3. In this lesson, we've looked at the layers in the SIAM ecosystem. We'll study each of these layers in more detail later in the course when we look at SIAM roles and responsibilities.